From Russia with Love dropped straight into 1963, the Bond film that flipped a spy story into a worldwide obsession. This is where the Bond legacy started getting loud in theaters worldwide. We're cracking open wild and unforgettable secrets hiding inside this Cold War spy classic, and things get way messier than the screen ever showed. Behind the scenes, Cold War tension pushed every detail into overdrive, making every frame feel dangerous. Plus a bonus fact that could be the most explosive story in Bond history. From secret presidential screenings to real-world espionage gadgets, this one goes deep into the shadows, and you're back in the $21 club, martini in hand. Some of these real-life inspirations came straight from intelligence rumors that still spark debate today. It's a mix of glamour, danger, and pure spy myth energy that defined an era. Number 1, the president's favorite novel. This is a moment that shook Bond history from the ground up. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy named Ian Fleming's From Russia with Love as one of his 10 favorite books of all time in Life magazine. That single shout-out sent sales exploding across America and pushed producers Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman to lock it in as the next Bond film after Dr. No, but the connection runs even deeper and gets way more haunting. On November 20th, 1963, just 2 days before his assassination in Dallas, Kennedy watched a private White House screening of From Russia with Love. It ended up being the last film he ever saw, and that chilling detail has followed the movie like a shadow for over 6 decades. Number 2, the twist behind the opening kill. This scene throws you straight into tension from the very first frame. James Bond is shown moving through a dark moonlit garden, silent and focused, until a mysterious assassin suddenly strikes and everything flips fast. It feels like Bond has been taken out in cold blood, but then the lights snap on and the truth hits hard. The man killed was not Bond at all, but a training dummy wearing a lifelike prosthetic mask of 007's face. That reveal changes everything in seconds. What makes it even crazier is that this moment was never part of the original plan. Editor Peter Hunt and director Terrence Young came up with it during post-production, reshaping a Red Grant training exercise and pushing it right to the front of the film before the main titles. That last-minute creative switch didn't just change the opening, it created the iconic pre-title action sequence that every Bond film would later copy and build on. One single edit reshaped the entire franchise forever. Number 3, a real chess championship on screen. This moment looks like a simple intelligence meeting, but it's hiding something way bigger than most viewers ever realized. Early in the film, Spectre strategist Kronstein wins a tense chess match before being pulled away to plan Bond's assassination. That game wasn't made up for drama, it was lifted straight from one of the most legendary chess battles in history. The board position mirrors the final moves of Boris Spassky's iconic victory over David Bronstein at the 1960 USSR Championship in Leningrad. It was a sharp, high-level King's Gambit, and even Spassky later called it one of his most unforgettable games. But there's a strange twist behind the details that adds even more intrigue. The filmmakers slightly altered the setup, removing 2 white pawns, reportedly because they mistakenly believed real chess positions could be copyrighted. Spassky would later rise to become world champion, and this exact game, hidden inside a spy thriller, kept living on in a way nobody expected. Immortalized inside a Bond film, it became a secret piece of chess history most viewers never even noticed unfolding right in front of them. Number 4, a beauty queen steps into Bond history in a big way. Daniela Bianchi was only 21 years old when she landed the role of Tatiana Romanova, instantly becoming the youngest actress ever cast as a leading Bond girl. That record stood strong for more than 2 decades, showing just how early she made her mark. But before Hollywood came calling, she had already taken over the global stage. In 1960, Bianchi finished as first runner-up in the Miss Universe pageant and also earned the Miss Photogenic title, proving she had star power long before the cameras rolled, and she wasn't the only pageant winner in this film either, which makes things even more interesting. Martine Beswick and Elisa Gore, who played the fierce fighting gypsy women, were also beauty contest winners in real life. Bianchi brought a rare mix of elegance and vulnerability to Tatiana, and her on-screen chemistry with Sean Connery became one of the most talked about pairings in the franchise. If you've seen our Dr. No coverage, you already know Bond girls always leave a mark, but Bianchi raised the bar in a way that changed expectations. Forever. Number 5, the voice that was not hers. Here's something most fans completely miss, even after watching the film again and again. Every single word spoken by Tatiana Romanova on screen was actually performed by someone else entirely. That's a major twist behind the scenes. Daniela Bianchi spoke very little English during filming, so she delivered her lines phonetically with a heavy Italian accent that didn't match the character's intended sound. Director Terrence Young realized this would not fit the role of a Russian cipher clerk, so British actress Barbara Jefford was brought in to completely re-record all of her dialogue in post-production. Bianchi is the face you see, but Jefford is the voice you hear. This kind of dubbing was actually very common in European cinema at the time, but the story doesn't stop there, it gets even more unusual. Bianchi was later dubbed again in another project, a Bond-related spoof called Operation Kid Brother, which added another strange layer to her film legacy. That film even starred Sean Connery's real-life brother Neil, making the connection even more surprising. Hollywood history can get wild like that, and moments like this show how layered and unexpected film production can really be. Number 6. Spectre is born from Cold War pressure, and it changes everything. In Ian Fleming's original novel, Bond's enemies were tied to SMERSH, a real Soviet counterintelligence unit that added serious real-world tension to the story. But when the film was being developed, the Cold War situation was extremely heated, and the Cuban Missile Crisis was still fresh in everyone's mind. Producers Broccoli and Saltzman saw a major risk in directly making the Soviet Union the main villain, so they made a bold switch and created Spectre, a fictional criminal network with no political loyalty at all. That one decision completely reshaped the Bond universe and gave the franchise way more freedom moving forward. Instead of being locked into real-world politics, Bond could now go up against enemies from anywhere, at any time, with no limits. That shift helped define the entire series and led to some of cinema's most legendary villains, including Ernst Stavro Blofeld himself. He makes his very first appearance here, shown only as a shadowy mastermind stroking a white cat in silence, and that image alone became pure movie history. Number 7. The birth of Q Bond. Fans know Q as one of the franchise's most beloved characters, the genius gadget maker who equips 007 with wild next-level tools. But the Q we know today actually starts right here in From Russia with Love. Desmond Llewellyn made his first appearance in the role in this film, replacing Peter Burton, who previously played the character under the name Major Boothroyd in Dr. No. That change quietly reshaped how the character would exist in the entire series going forward. Llewellyn would go on to play Q in 17 Bond films over the next 36 years, becoming one of the longest running actors in the entire franchise. His introduction scene in From Russia with Love, where he hands Bond the now famous trick briefcase, set the blueprint for every Q moment that followed. From exploding pens to hidden gadgets and even invisible cars, it all traces back to this one debut. One man, one briefcase, and a legacy that never slowed down. Even the smallest details in that first gadget scene sparked decades of spy tech creativity behind the franchise, influencing everything from secret compartments to over-the-top field gear seen later in Bond history. Number 8. The villain who stood on a box. Robert Shaw's Red Grant is easily one of the coldest, most intimidating performances in Bond history. Cold eyes, sharp mind, and that "what is your plan" energy that makes every scene feel like a trap snapping shut. Even when he's calm, it feels dangerous, like he's always 3 steps ahead. But here's the wild detail nobody talks about. Shaw himself revealed on The Tonight Show that he was actually 4 inches shorter than Sean Connery. To keep Red Grant looking like a towering physical threat, he often had to stand on a wooden crate during shared scenes, hiding the height difference in plain sight. Despite that, his performance hit so hard it caught the attention of a young Steven Spielberg. Years later, that same intensity helped him land Quint in Jaws, the grizzled shark hunter who became just as legendary as any Bond villain. One Bond role didn't just build a villain, it sparked a whole new wave of cinema history. Number 9. An Oscar nominee in Killer Shoes. The casting of Rosa Klebb is one of the sharpest moves in Bond history, pure genius energy behind the scenes. We use live targets as well. That chilling line sets the tone for everything this character becomes on screen. Director Terrence Young chose Austrian-born Lotte Lenya after hearing one of her musical recordings, and that decision changed the whole vibe of the film. She was no ordinary performer. She was a Tony Award winner, known for her work in Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill's Threepenny Opera, and she had already earned an Academy Award nomination for The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone. At 61, she brought a cold, unsettling presence to Klebb that younger actresses simply couldn't match. And then there are those shoes, the detail that made her unforgettable. Klebb's poison-tipped blade hidden inside her footwear became one of the most iconic and feared weapons in Bond history. After the film's release, Lenya reportedly said people would instinctively glance down at her shoes when they met her, like they were waiting for danger to strike. That role locked her into cinema history forever, turning a quiet detail into straight-up legendary spy movie myth. Number 10. The brutal train fight. The fight between Bond and Red Grant aboard the Orient Express is often ranked as one of the greatest hand-to-hand fights ever. Filmed, it hits hard because it feels tight, personal, and nowhere to run. Director Terrence Young, who had a boxing background at Cambridge, helped shape the whole thing with stunt coordinator Peter Perkins, turning the scene into pure pressure cooker chaos. Every move feels like survival, not choreography, and that's what makes it hit different. The scene took 3 weeks to film inside the cramped train compartment, and the tension was real behind the scenes too. Sean Connery and Robert Shaw pushed hard to do almost everything themselves, using stunt doubles only for a single shot that made it into the final cut. The production team was reportedly uneasy at times, because the violence looked so real it crossed into uncomfortable territory. And here's the key detail: there's no music at all, just fists landing, strained breathing, and the cold rhythmic clatter of the train rolling through darkness. That silence makes every hit land heavier than expected. That raw, claustrophobic brutality set a new bar for Bond films, and honestly action cinema in general. It proved that silence, space, and pressure can hit harder than any soundtrack or flashy effects, and that legacy still echoes through the franchise today. Umber 11, Connery's best kept secret. Sean Connery was 32 years old when he filmed From Russia with Love, and he had that unmistakable screen presence that defined early James Bond. Strong jaw, sharp confidence, pure cinematic authority, but there was something hidden right under the surface. Connery had been losing his hair since his early 20s and wore a toupee throughout his entire run as James Bond. The hair pieces were custom made, carefully maintained, and almost no one in the audience ever noticed a thing. What makes this even more interesting is how openly Connery spoke about it later in life. He would even joke that he started losing his hair at 21 and simply refused to let it affect his career or confidence. That kind of attitude adds a whole new layer to his on-screen persona. It's one of those details that completely changes how you rewatch the films once you know it. Suddenly, every angle, every close-up, every iconic moment hits a little differently. The world's most famous secret agent had a secret of his own, and it was hiding in plain sight all along. Number 12. The briefcase that started it all. This ain't just some prop sitting in the background. This is the moment that kicked off Bond's legendary gadget game in a major way. The attaché case Q hands to Bond in this film is straight up history in a box. It's packed with serious spy heat, a folding AR-7 sniper rifle with 20 rounds, a flat throwing knife, 50 gold sovereigns hidden inside the lining, and even a tear gas cartridge rigged to go off if it's opened wrong. That's not a toy, that's a whole survival kit for a secret agent on the move. Production designer Sid Kane built the case as a fully working practical prop with real compartments, keeping it grounded and believable instead of going full fantasy. That's what made it hit different. It felt like something a real undercover agent might actually carry on a mission. No over-the-top sci-fi vibes here, just cold, clean spy logic. It set the tone for everything that came after, and still stands as one of the slickest tools in the entire franchise. From this one briefcase, you can draw a straight line to every wild gadget Bond ever used, from jetpacks to invisible cars and everything in between. Number 13. Hitchcock almost directed. This is one of those cinema what-if moments that still feels unreal. After the release of Dr. No, legendary director Alfred Hitchcock reportedly showed interest in directing a Bond film. With his mastery of suspense and psychological tension, it honestly feels like a perfect match on paper. But the deal never happened, likely because his fee alone would have swallowed a huge part of the production budget. Instead, Terrence Young returned to the director's chair, but the Hitchcock influence still hangs over the film like a quiet warning signal, and you can actually feel it in the film's DNA. The helicopter sequence echoes North by Northwest's legendary crop duster moment, and the whole atmosphere leans into that paranoid, slow-burn tension Hitchcock was known for. Even without his name in the credits, his style is basically haunting the edges of the movie, shaping how suspense builds frame by frame. Bond may never have officially worked under Hitchcock's direction, but this film came dangerously close to that reality, and that alone makes it one of the most fascinating almost collaborations in film history. Number 14, the budget doubled overnight after Dr. No's surprise success. What started as a modest $1 million production suddenly turned into something much bigger when United Artists realized they had a hit on their hands. the studio essentially opened the vault for the sequel, doubling the budget to $2 million and giving Sean Connery a significant bonus bump, an extra $100,000 on top of his $54,000 salary. That kind of jump showed just how fast Bond was becoming a global force. With that increased budget, everything scaled up in a major way. The production could now afford international location shooting in Istanbul, more elaborate set pieces, and a cinematic scope that pushed the franchise far beyond its original limits. It wasn't just a sequel anymore. It was a full expansion of a growing empire, and it paid off big time. From Russia with Love earned over $12 million worldwide on its initial release, more than doubling the earnings of Dr. No. That moment proved the franchise wasn't a risky experiment anymore. It was a straight-up box office machine in the making, turning Bond into one of the most profitable film series the world had ever seen. Number 15, the hidden theme song. This is one of the most overlooked music twists in Bond history, and it completely changes how the film feels. Most Bond fans expect a big vocal theme blasting right over the opening credits, but From Russia with Love flips that expectation in a subtle but powerful way. The title song, performed by British singer Matt Monro, does not play as a full vocal during the opening at all. Instead, only the melody appears instrumentally over the titles, creating a quiet, almost secretive mood that sets the tone from the start. The full vocal version is held back completely until the final scene, playing over the closing moments as Bond and Tatiana drift through Venice, and that delay hits way harder than expected. This was also the first Bond film to feature John Barry as the main composer, and he even traveled to Istanbul with the production team to absorb local sounds and atmosphere for inspiration. That detail adds real depth to the score's texture. Monroe's smooth emotional delivery became a fan favorite, and saving the full song for the ending gave the film a rare emotional punch that most later Bond films never quite matched. Number 16, the helicopter that got way too close. Near the end of the film, Bond is chased down by a helicopter in a sequence that instantly brings Hitchcock's North by Northwest crop duster scene to mind. It feels cinematic on the surface, but behind the scenes things got seriously dangerous. Sean Connery actually performed parts of the stunt himself, running across an open field while the helicopter swooped low overhead. What was meant to be controlled film work quickly turned into something far more unpredictable. The pilot involved reportedly had limited stunt flying experience, and at multiple points flew far too close to Connery, putting him in genuine danger during filming. The margins between safety and disaster were razor thin. When you watch the final cut, that tension doesn't feel manufactured, and that's because it wasn't. Connery was known for staying composed under pressure, but even he was pushed by how intense this shoot became. Every shot carries that raw edge where real risk bleeds into performance. It's one of those rare moments in cinema where the fear you feel on screen is directly tied to what was happening just out of frame, making the sequence unforgettable in a way no special effect could ever replicate. Number 17, the director's helicopter crash. And just when you think the production couldn't get more dangerous, it gets worse. Director Terrence Young survived his own near-fatal helicopter accident during the same production on July 6, 1963, while scouting filming locations for the boat chase sequence in Argyll, Scotland. The situation spiraled in seconds. What was supposed to be routine location work turned into chaos mid-air. Get out of the way, give them a warning! Panic hit as the helicopter carrying Young, art director Michael White, and a cameraman was suddenly caught in violent winds and plunged straight into the water. The aircraft sank deep, around 40 to 50 feet underwater. White was thrown clear and escaped with only a bruised elbow, and the pilot managed to break free after his safety belt snapped. But Young was trapped underwater inside a small air pocket in the passenger compartment, fighting for survival. The crew smashed the canopy open and pulled him out, bleeding and shaken but alive. And in a move that sounds almost unreal, Terrence Young was back behind the camera within the hour, continuing the shoot like nothing had happened, pushing the production forward despite what he had just survived. Number 18, bonus fact, the actor who gave everything. This is the one that hits different and stays with you long after the credits roll. Mexican actor Pedro Armendáriz was cast as Karim Bey on the recommendation of legendary director John Ford, bringing real weight and presence to the role from the start. But right before filming, everything changed fast. Armendáriz was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and the production was suddenly faced with a heartbreaking situation. Instead of recasting him, director Terrence Young made a bold call and reshuffled the entire schedule to film all of his scenes first, squeezing them into just 2 weeks. Even while clearly in pain, Armendáriz pushed through every scene with serious determination, wanting to leave something meaningful behind for his family and his work. During filming, he and Ian Fleming, who was also seriously ill at the time, shared moments of connection, even bonding over their mutual admiration for Ernest Hemingway, a figure tied to themes of struggle and fate in their conversations. The emotional weight behind the scenes was very real, even if the audience never saw it. After his scenes were completed, Terrence Young held a farewell gathering for him, marking the end of his time on set. Not long after, Armendariz passed away by suicide, and he never saw the finished film released. For a few remaining shots, Young himself stepped in as a stand-in, filming from behind to complete the sequence. It's one of the most emotional behind-the-scenes stories in Bond history, where the film becomes more than just espionage and action. It turns into a record of endurance, sacrifice, and human struggle, captured forever on screen.